everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com and it's time for another edition of AEW Dynamite TE. That's one for all my garage MCs out there. If you get it, drop a little "I got that, Jack" in the comments down below. So now that I've alienated everybody apart from the UK audience here, it's time to talk about AEW Dynamite. But how good was Dynamite this week? Well, as you know, there's only one singular way to find out, and that's by assigning each individual segment a delectable individual grade. That's right, it's time for AEW Dynamite Graded. We open the show with one of the two semi-finals for the TNT Championship Tournament, and this one is Cody versus Darby Allin, and we get a nice little video package as well to really kick things off. It's really well made actually. Darby says that in their last match, he didn't lose to Cody, he lost to Arn because of course Arn Anderson was on the outside warning Cody about the impending coffin drop. Cody says that when he tied with Darby like early on in Dynamite's history, that felt like a loss to him because he never wants to lose. And the rest of the video package is about sort of the differences between the two of them. Darby talks about how Cody really embodies everything that a TV network would want in their champion, you know, the suits, the shirts, the ties, but he says that he's the opposite of that, and for that very reason, he should be the first champion. The match begins and it starts off pretty slowly. There's a few counters, there's a few exchanges of shoulder tackles, which obviously Cody wins because he's bigger and stronger, but Darby evens the odds by really targeting Cody's leg, and because of the slow pace of the start of this match, we really do get a sense that this is going to be quite a long one. Things head to the outside at one point and Darby charges at Cody. Cody steps aside and Darby just crashes full on, not into the guardrail as he does most weeks, but into Rhodes, who then crashes into the guardrail, and Cody's like, oh no, it's bloody happened again. Billy Gunn helps Brandi to the back, and Cody at one point is still staggering about on the outside. He heads over to the heel side of the crowd, and over the crowd barrier, Britt Baker just decks him with her shoe. So yeah, I mean, I don't think she was like favoring Cody or Darby because they're both baby faces. I think she just did it because she could. Darby hits both the shoulder buttons and steals Cody's finisher, nailing the crossroads, but it only gets two. So then he steals one of Cody's other moves, the figure four, which obviously Cody invented, and it's his original move. Darby slaps it on, Cody's in trouble. At one point it looks like he's going to even get pinned off it like he did to Shawn Spears in the round before, but then Brandi comes out and this helps Cody make the ropes because of the power of love. This is the greatest lover. Oh no. Cody now gets the crossroads, but again, that's only good enough for two. So he heads up top. It looks like he's going to go for his moonsault, but instead, it's the coffin drop. But Darby Allin gets the knees up and Cody just bounces off him. Shades of their previous match, but in reverse. They've flip-reversed it, as Ross and Blazing Squad would say. Because Cody has just hit Darby's knees, Darby is now in control. He heads straight up top for a coffin drop of his own. He nails it, but then Cody just rolls him up for three. What? This gets a B+ grade. I really enjoyed this match and wanted to give it a higher grade, but I have had to penalise some points for that weird ending. I appreciate that AEW do invest time in trying to build up alternate finishes to matches using different moves, different sequences that we're used to seeing, and sometimes it does pay off, but sometimes, like here, it doesn't really work for me. This one really reminded me of, there was a match when Miz was taking on the Usos. I think it was Miz and Shane versus the Usos, and Miz nailed the skull-crushing finale, and then just immediately the pinfall got reversed by whichever Uso he hit it on, I can't really remember, and it was really weird because it looked like he just totally no-sold Miz's finisher, and it made the skull-crushing finale look really ineffective. This one was a bit less egregious than that because, you know, the coffin drop can be easily turned, I guess, into a roll-up, but at the same time, should Cody really be in a position where he's got the energy to do that? And am I taking wrestling far too seriously? I am. I have been for about 4 years now. Next up, we get a little video package on Scorpio Sky. We had one last week, we're getting one again this week. It's sort of a continuation of his history. It talks about how he never really wanted to be the third man in a trio, but things have worked out really well. It got him a title match against Jericho, and it's just the beginning, and he wants to move forward. It's too short to really grade, but it was well done. And after that, another video package that's too short to grade, but another good one as well. It's MJF giving another injury update. He's recovered from his hangnail, which he said doctors told him was miraculous. They've never seen anyone recover from such a near-death situation before, but now he's in a neck brace. The reason for this, MJF says, is because he cut himself shaving, so again, he can't be there, and yeah. You know what this promo is, it's just MJF cutting a good, deluded heel promo, and it comes across really well, and he's just completely taking the mickey. Next up, we get Wardlow taking on Musa, who is a Chicago-based wrestler who has wrestled a match in AEW before, recently losing a tag team match to the Best Friends on Dark. Can he get his first win in AEW tonight? No, he can't. Like, obviously, he just can't. Musa does put up a bit of a fight for about a minute or so, but then Wardlow just goes into like ultimate death mode. He gets Musa on the top rope. His legs are dangling him off the top rope, and then Wardlow kind of drops him into a knee. It's almost like a super turnbuckle assisted go to sleep. It looks amazing. And then the F10 or the spinning F5 or whatever it is, and that's it. That's the 3 count. I mean, Musa, what were you thinking? This gets a C+ grade. It was a bit of a standard squash match, but I've added the plus because of that insane knee move from the corner. That was really, really good. It looked awesome. Next up, it's another installment of the Bubbly Bunch, the Inner Circle's little video package series, which is all sort of social media-y and TikTok-y. And honestly, every single one of these guys, I'm surprised, has such a good grasp on how to make these videos, because TikTok confuses me and should do to everybody of my age. No age jokes in the comments, please. Jericho can't believe that everyone thinks that Sammy Guevara won the Flim Flam last week, even though he blatantly did. They all have a bit of a debate about who won, and Jericho's like, right, we'll settle this with an old-fashioned Manitoba Melee. It turns out a Manitoba Melee is basically like the Don't Rush challenge that's been going around on social media, but slightly different. So every wrestler strikes the camera, the next wrestler sells it, then they come back and strike the camera, and then the next person sells it, and then the next person. And I think it's probably going to be about 2 or 3 days max before Tom Campbell engineers one of his own on Twitter. But even though this starts off with members of the Inner Circle, it expands to not just other members of the roster, but just celebrities get involved as well. So I've got a bit of a list here, and this isn't everybody, but it's like the main ones that I could tell. So Peter Avalon's there, the librarian, or one of the librarians. Jungle Boy, Sonny Kiss, Dr. Luther, our favourite wrestler in AEW. Jericho's dad is back. Lou Ferrigno, who has a blowtorch, I believe. Corey Taylor from Slipknot. Jay and Silent Bob, they've got both of them there. Several comedians that I just didn't really recognise. And also Virgil. And also Vicky Guerrero. Jericho goes, stop, 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 stop. And you think it's going to be because it's got too chaotic and there's people involved who aren't in the Inner Circle, but he actually just says, that was awesome. Was that Lou Ferrigno? Which is a nice little cap on a segment which was harmless fun. So I think I'm going to give it a B grade. I mean, it wasn't the most important thing you're ever going to see, but it was a nice little bit of variety on the show, and they clearly had fun with it. And some of those celebrities they got, that was a pretty big deal. Corey Taylor. Next up, it's a no DQ match between two teams that have been feuding recently. The tension's being built between the members of these two squads. So it's the Best Friends, bow, chicka bow, chicka bow, chicka best friends, dun, 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 dun. I need to get outside, I'm so bored, I'm actually going mad here. Taking on Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc, who I believe they've got a new tag team name. I think they're called the Super Bad Death Squad or something like that. It's a combination of their two things, isn't it? They could be called like the Pretty Goths, or the I Have a Girlfriend emos, you know, it's that sort of thing. Now I, like many people, I'm just waiting in this match for the Orange Cassidy spot, and it's no DQ, so he could get involved at any point, but Jimmy Havoc's thought of this, and he takes him out pretty early on. The action spills to the outside, Havoc gets a steel chair, just turns around, just throws it in Orange Cassidy's face, and Cassidy's just totally taken by surprise. You can't argue with the effectiveness of such a tactic. The heels isolate Trent and beat him up with a ladder, not just any ladder, not a shiny, sparkly WWE ladder, no, no, no. A blue ladder, so you know it hurts like even more. But the babyfaces bravely fight back with steel chairs and signature moves and double team moves and hugs and everything you want from the Best Friends. Trent takes some nasty bumps in this match though. At one point he's on the top rope and Jimmy Havoc sweeps the leg from under him like he's in the Cobra Kai, and Trent lands on a ladder which is like balanced below him in a turnbuckle below, and his back just crashes off the ladder. And if that wasn't nasty enough, Havoc then slams him onto two chairs upright, onto the pointy bit, not the pointy bit. Chuck Taylor hits Kip Sabian with a pile driver onto a steel chair, so Penelope Ford has to break up the pinfall. And as far as I'm concerned, that should mean that Kip Sabian is out of this match for like 3 weeks or something. Orange Cassidy evens the odds when Ford gets involved though, and he takes out Sabian and Ford with just a weird move from the top rope to the outside. It's like a just a bit of a hop over the ring post area and just falls, and it's a weird landing. It looks very half-hearted, but then again, it's Orange Cassidy. Chuck Taylor hits the awful waffle on Jimmy Havoc onto a pile of chairs, and that is it. And the babyfaces pick up a lovely big victory. This gets a B+ grade. It wasn't one for the purists, certainly, but it was all right. I enjoyed it for what it was, and it was something different. It didn't really feel like what we typically see on an episode of Dynamite. It felt more like something from an Impact pay-per-view, but like in a good way, not, you know, not in a bad way. Next up, we get our customary Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker DMD promo. She invites us to a tour of her dental surgery. We see some picture frames. There's an Adam Cole cameo, not in person. That would be outrageous and the biggest thing that had happened in wrestling over the past however long. But no, he's just in a picture. But still, it's cheeky, isn't it? It's cheeky from the AEW boys. And who should show up? I just mentioned Impact. Who should show up but Rebel, who used to wrestle in Impact quite a lot. I'm like, what is she doing there? Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker, gets her name wrong. She keeps calling her Reba. We get like a talking head segment where Rebel's like, my name's actually Rebel, it's really annoying. And you know, Britt's just a bit of an arse to her throughout the segment, but it's funny. I did a bit of research. I was like, why on earth is Rebel there? It turns out AEW hired her a few months ago to do hair and makeup backstage. And in this video package, she was actually doing Dr. Britt Baker DMD's makeup. So it all makes sense. You know, fair play to her as well. Finally, we get Britt's lesson of the day on her lovely whiteboard. She says, rule number 2, I think we're up to 2. She says, not everybody can be a role model, and she lists some examples of who can't be a role model. Fat people, she says, wannabes, snaggletooths, because she's a dentist, and also people who wear glasses. Sorry, Pacini. But all of the examples that she showed on screen was just Tony. It was just Tony Schiavone. This gets a B+. It was creative, it was fun, and it helps keep Britt relevant throughout, you know, well, she's one of the wrestlers in AEW who stayed the most relevant through this whole lockdown period. Next up, we get Shawn Spears versus a wrestler named Baron Black, who's making his AEW debut. Can he get a win? No, of course not. Well, he gets a few moves in, but it's not long before Spears takes him out with the Death Valley driver and then a sharpshooter. Ooh. Spears has clarified on social media that he asked for Bret Hart's permission to use his finisher, and Bret Hart, to my surprise at least, went, yeah. Well, actually, that seems like a very Bret Hart thing to do. Yeah, you know, why not? I can't do a Bret impression. Matthew does a fantastic one, and I should have listened to him. This gets a C grade. It was another squash match, but it was an interesting one because Shawn Spears now has the sharpshooter, and I think that could play well into storylines in the future, probably involving Cody, because Cody loves storylines that are all deep and historic. Next up, we got another squash match, but this one was decent. This one was good, because if you want to make someone look even more terrifying than they are, put them in a match with my boy, Marko Stunt. This one had been built up over the past few weeks with Lee and Stunt just sort of glaring at each other over the guardrail quite a lot, but they finally had a match, and obviously Stunt got absolutely destroyed, and it was so glorious. Brodie's just nailing Marko with big moves. Sometimes Marko's getting incredible height off of some of these. At one point, Marko does go for a suicide dive, but obviously Brodie just plucks him out of midair, and eventually finishes things off with a huge sit-out powerbomb. Obviously that gets the 3 count. This gets a B grade. Another excellent squash match performance from Marko Stunt. He's done it against Lance Archer, and now he's done it again against Brodie Lee. And that's really the benefit of Marko, because yes, he's someone who is very believably squashable, but at the same time, he's a regular roster member and a very popular one, so a win over him still means something. Next up, we get another video package that is too short to grade, but I'm still going to mention it. It's Jon Moxley basically letting us know that he's going to be there next week. He says he's going to load up the car with Big Platinum, his nickname for the belt, and also a few Metallica CDs. Turns out Moxley's a Metallica guy, which I'm quite disappointed at, because I'm not really a metalhead, I'm more of a punk guy, and I just like to imagine that my favourite wrestlers like the same music as me. Is that too much to ask, or does that say something bad about my own desire for affection and acceptance in this world? And finally, the other semi-final in the TNT Championship tournament, we get Big Dustin Rhodes taking on Lance Archer, and it's pretty intense. I mean, the result seems quite obvious because Cody just won the semi-final. They've been building to this match with Archer, but let's see how it goes. Archer usually just like smacks somebody with a huge right hand or a huge forearm on his way to the ring. This time he's already beating up somebody before his entrance. They just come barreling out of the entrance tunnel. Lance Archer's just battering them down the ramp. He walks around the ring, all the baby faces are like, whoa, apart from Colt Cabana, who stands his ground because he's already wrestled Archer and he took him to a good match. It's quite back and forth at first. Dustin is putting up a good fight, so Archer heads to the outside and grabs a steel chair. Dustin heads to the outside and cuts him off, takes the chair from him, but Archer big boots it into his face, and Dustin is already bleeding. I mean, I expected bad things to happen to Dustin in this match for the purposes of the story they're trying to tell, but I didn't expect it to happen within the first like 2 or 3 minutes. Archer just batters Dustin for a while, he's bleeding more and more, but then Dustin, because he's a Rhodes, bravely fights back, and then actually nails Archer with a crossroads, and it only gets a 1 count. Foreshadowing for the final, my friends. Archer fights back, big choke slam to Dustin Rhodes. I realised that I like hooked the arm there in my mime of the move. That's the saddest thing I've ever done. But yes, big choke slam to Dustin Rhodes, and he rolls up Archer in the middle of the pinfall for a 2 count. What is with the Rhodes brothers tonight? How are they taking these big moves and then just getting roll-ups off the back of it? Archer is annoyed at Dustin's inability to go away and lose the match, so he rips off a turnbuckle pad and just slams Dustin's head repeatedly into the exposed turnbuckle. Dustin is done by this point. He's basically lost the match. He's like heavily bleeding. He's nearly unconscious, he's lying partway under the bottom rope. So here comes QT Marshall to throw in the towel. He draws back, Cody's there and he stops him from throwing in the towel. But then Cody thinks as well, and he's looking at his brother and he's just like, he's not going to win this. I should probably also throw in the towel. Dustin stops him and grabs the towel and he's like, no, I need to keep going. So Lance Archer drags him back into the ring, grabs his head, uses the claw, his signature claw, and just it's like something from, I don't even know what it's like something from. It's really merciless. Like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels maybe, when Vinnie Jones and the guy in the car door, and it's a little bit like that. Archer gets the easy pinfall, he'll meet Cody in the finals, and yeah, that's the end of the match. Cody, Brandy and QT all slide in to check on Dustin, while Lance Archer stands over Cody intimidatingly, and that's the end of the show. This match gets an A- grade from me. It wasn't as well worked a match as Cody versus Darby, but in terms of storytelling, I thought it was absolutely superb. Yeah, I'd say it was probably my favourite match on the show, despite the fact that it wasn't quite as crisp as Cody versus Darby. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that final, Cody versus Lance. One minor criticism, I guess, is that they were building up to Cody versus Lance even before the tournament was a thing, even before it had been announced. We knew that we were going to get this match between Cody and Lance Archer, which is why I would have maybe liked to have seen Darby win his semi-final against Cody, depriving Cody of another chance at a title, sends Cody a little bit mad, and then eventually he gets the shot at Lance down the line somewhere. But instead, you know, they've gone this way with it. It's not too big a deal. I don't mind it that much. I just think maybe there could have been a little bit more inventiveness in there. And my overall grade for this week's Dynamite is an A- grade. I thought this was the best one for a while, maybe the best one of the lockdown era. I can't quite remember what I've given other ones, but it was certainly up there. One of the best of this lockdown time. Yeah, really enjoyed it. There was variety. Yes, there was some squash matches, maybe too many as per usual. However, we had a hardcore brawl. We had 2 epic long semi-finals with big storytelling elements. We had a comedy bit with Jericho. We had a comedy bit with Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Lots of good stuff, and it all fit together nicely. So A- is the grade, and generally a very enjoyable show. So that's it for this week's AEW Dynamite Graded. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. What did you think of Dynamite? Let me know in the comment section down below, and thanks once again. I will see you very soon.